Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Hey, guys, today we got a feel good stream. And in addition to a feel good stream, I also have Nani here with me, who is going to join me as we kind of talk about some stuff. Largely, I think, related to ESO, but not entirely. I think all of it also kind of generalizes as well. Nani, hello.
Hey, Night Hero, how are you today?
I am doing really well. I was up a little bit late last night. It's totally normal to send Discord messages to people at like 2 a.m. or later.
Yes.
Uh, well, I wanted to start off, and it's funny because we just, one of the things I've learned about streaming and talking to people on stream is that never talk to anybody, especially if you're going to interview them before the stream starts, because like the best conversations will start happening spontaneously. So I was mentioning to Nani just a couple of the rough points I wanted to talk about today, and one of them um, was why you play games. I know why I play games. I talked about it a little bit, so some of you might know. Nani, why are you drawn to video games? I'm curious.
Well, initially, kind of a sad story. I got really sick and I wasn't able to work anymore, and I was kind of relegated to being at home. And my son, who was a teenager at the time, said, "Hey, my girlfriend's dad plays video games. You should get on this MMO with him." And I had no idea what that meant. And that's where it all started. And it has developed into so much more.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, and to give everybody kind of a picture who might not know who you are, what you do, and I'll do this because I know it can be awkward to talk about yourself. Nani runs, well, I'll let you tell how many, I mean, you run trials most days of the week, I want to say. Is that, and several times most days, or a lot of days. Is
Every
that
day but Tuesday.
every day but Tuesday? Okay. Running trials. She does a lot in the Discord. And yeah, so in addition to, I think you play some other games now too. I've seen a bit. What else are you playing besides ESO right now?
A little bit of New World, and I've just tipped my dipped my toes into your game, Helldivers.
Helldivers. Okay, cool, cool. Oh, that's awesome. I love being associated with Helldivers. I will say it's my game for sure. I absolutely love it. Cool. Yeah, for me, the thing that got me into gaming, well, like I've been gaming since I was like a little kid, like really young. I used to play. My dad is a computer programmer, was a computer programmer, and we had a computer relatively early for most people, and I guess it depends on your income class and a bunch of other stuff. But we had computers relatively early because he would have to remote in sometimes and do stuff. And so I would sneak out at night and I would play games. And then like if anybody woke up, I remember my mom used to always wake up, and we're in a trailer, so the walls are really thin. Like there's not much, old school too. I think they've improved over time, but like really thin walls, just like the thinnest walls possible. And so I would hear her start to get up to come, get a glass of water or something. And the computer was in the living room, which was also, just open to the kitchen. Again, it was a pretty small trailer. So these are kind of the same room. So I would turn the monitor off and climb under the table and like hide down there and in the dark, like curl up, and she would never know I was there. I never got caught. And I would turn off the monitor though, but it was like old school monitors, guys. When you turned them off, like they took a while. So the thing would still be glowing and it would still be staticky, and she would come over and look, and the tower was still on too. And so she'd be like wondering what's going on if the computer was being left on. It was kind of hilarious. But to get more to the point of like why I play video games is, I mean, I guess a lot of reasons, but I think that I definitely relate to, there's times where I've been, not very happy with life, very depressed and what have you. And games can be just a great escape to just forget about real life, forget about whatever's going on, and for a little bit of time. And I think for a lot of people, that's kind of the same thing. Obviously being sick and everything else, I think that might not be the exact same thing, but I think it's fairly close. I think now, because there's a question. I, do YouTube videos and I cover games and I want to do this, full time and make a living doing it. I think that the other thing about video games that I like and that, makes me want to continue to do it and makes it really feels like I'm not wasting my life, if I'm being totally honest, is the idea that, I learned from video games that it was okay to fail. And I remember that not feeling okay for the longest time. And I struggled a lot with learning in school. And video games to me taught me like, it's totally okay to fail. You just try again and again and again and again. And eventually you'll get it. And eventually you might even go past just getting it to like actually having like mastery and being really good at something. And I think, if you have, low self esteem, you don't feel great about yourself. These are all feelings that I've definitely had in the past. And getting to the point where you like, you know what? No, I can do this. If I keep trying, I can learn and I can get better at this. And I think that that's probably like the biggest like life lesson that I've gotten from playing video games. But I feel like I started maybe a few years before you, Nani, since it sounds like only recently, if your son was telling you to play games
Well,
with
he
a
was
friend.
he was in high school, so I don't know, was that 2007? Because I think he graduated in
Oh,
2008.
okay, okay. So this has still been a
So
while.
it's been a minute. Yeah.
Uh,
Forgive my froggy throat there. No, yeah, initially it was for that reason. I couldn't work anymore. I went from working 60 to 80 hours a week. I had a wonderful career that I really thrived in, loved it. And then in a heartbeat, I was relegated to being at home. It's like, okay, what is my purpose now? What am I going to do with my life? Kids were teenagers. They didn't want me or need me at that phase in their world. Um, so yeah, the video game kind of gave me a social circle again, people to talk to and y- commiserate with and learn with. And now that physically I'm at a stable place in life, I'm able to take a lot of the tools and things that help me enjoy my career so much and put them into the game.
what do you?
And so
I don't want to jump too far ahead, but what do you mean by that?
Well, my career was with Avon, so I worked for the corporation, and my job was to recruit and train Avon representatives. But in and of that, it was to help people find their own self-worth. My job was to help them take this opportunity and develop it into whatever worked for their life, whether they were, young mom at home and they needed their own business or some outlet, or whether they were retired and wanted to find their next career. My job was to motivate and help inspire people to be the best they could be. And for me, that fits right in with trials, helping people see that it's not so scary, that anybody can do it if they're given the opportunity, and they can do with it whatever they want.
Yeah, and I think that at least my experience since I'd say like the early 2000s, with MMOs and just games in general, I think you find a lot of people. I mean, if you have a serious illness or disability of some sort, like what do you do? Like if you're stuck at home for a lot of the hours of the day, more often than you would like or something, whatever it happens to be, like there's a lot of reasons that you'll find people with unfortunate, serious issues, people that are homebound and what have you, or it's just hard for them to leave, and you'll find them in games. So I think it's also you probably get a little bit more uh, maybe misrepresented or not misrepresented, but like a overrepresented demographics for those particular groups too. And I find that to be interesting and kind of cool, honestly, to be able to know that those people are out there, chat with them, be friends, and hey Wampus, what's going on? What's up, Terrell? And kind of again, just like see how people different than you might live. And I think that's like another thing is the number of people that I have met playing video games is totally different. The
Mhm.
diversity. I live in a area, it doesn't matter where you live, right? You're gonna find people that are similar to you. You go to places, right? Like if I meet people, you know, it's going to be at a handful of places that I would normally go to, which might not at all be places where people I meet. playing games go to, and seeing how, yeah, just sheer the diversity and people's different perspective is huge. I had a chance, Nani, when you were in the chair force, you're chair force, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
getting this right. Air Force, Air
Chair
Force.
force.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Did I say that? Freudian slip. Freudian slip. Uh,
Jarhead.
uh, oh no, the Marine's gonna get mad. I was in the Army.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, no.
Oops.
uh, you want to hear a funny story? I got a GED, so because I didn't graduate high school, and at the time, the Marines were not accepting of anybody with a. You had to have a high school diploma, and so I was too uneducated for the Marines at the time. At least that's my. I'm pretty sure that's true. I need to double check
Yeah,
that now.
it is true.
Okay, which is kind of hilarious if you know the reputation of Marines. Um, I don't even know what I was saying now. Now I'm just telling stories. Uh,
You asked if I was in the chair force.
yes. Were you ever stationed overseas outside of the U.S.?
No. I ended up, yeah, my unit was. I'm a Desert Storm vet,
Okay.
and I ended up doing base support. So my group went to Turkey and Saudi.
Okay.
Um, so
Were you like base bound in that? I don't know what those duty stations look like. Were you like basically just on base? Were you or
yeah,
yeah.
for those of you old enough to remember what MASH, that TV show MASH, familiar with radar? I was radar. So my job was to make sure everybody was worldwide qualified, make sure all the I's were dotted, T's were crossed, and shots were given to the appropriate people at the appropriate time.
All right. And but were you allowed to go out and visit like the local, economy and what have you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Uh, I was, because I was made to stay based stateside.
Oh, okay. 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 Um, Jawal says Nani was in the cheer force.
Cheer force.
I
Yep.
like it.
Yep.
uh, Wampus, okay. Welcome to the GED club. Yeah. So, I when I joined, they give you they usually they're trying to recruit you, right? And they didn't realize that for me, they didn't really have to give me very much. But I had a really great recruiter who was like, well, like, what do you want? Because they have a couple of things they can offer you to get you to sign up. And for me, it was, I could get a duty station outside of the U.S. And meaning that like we have bases all over, and I was like, yeah, that I want that,
Mhm.
and like GI Bill stuff comes along with it or whatever. But that was like the main thing. I wanted to get away. Living outside the U.S. It really gives you a different perspective. I was stationed in Germany for several years, and Wampus said recruiter lied to me too. My recruiter was actually great, Wampus. I'm sorry to hear that. I know most people's was not. My recruiter was actually great, and I could have been taken advantage of so easily. But yeah, I got Germany and getting to see how just something totally different than a white trash trailer park kid would ever experience growing up in a small town in in the deep south. It was really eye opening for me and got to just experience different cultures. Another thing that a lot of people will tell you is that the culture shock is when you come back, not when you go there, because I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's you're expecting things to be different or what have you. But when you come back and you're like, oh, oh yeah, we do things differently. I remember just another funny story, guys. So you have to put yourself in the mindset. Maybe not Nani, you can help us here. Maybe I don't know, but I'm again from what is considered the deep South, which is a I don't know, socioeconomic
Difficult.
area, I think, um, and um, from the country, family, just everything you would expect. Okay, from that. And one time on a trip, I had a friend who was an American but was living in Germany, and I traveled every weekend, and I broke all the rules. Like, you're not supposed to go within so many miles. You're not supposed to leave so many miles of the base because they want you to be able to get back in case you're called up or whatever, and they just don't want you going out and creating an international incident too. So you weren't supposed to. I always broke this rule, so I was always traveling, and I went with a friend who was a lawyer. He's a patent lawyer for SAP, a very large software company, for those who aren't familiar with it. And he dealt with international patent for that company. And I don't remember where I met him, maybe at a bar or something. Nice guy, cool guy. And he was like, hey, he was looking for travel buddies and, people that he didn't work with. And I was like, yeah, man, like, I was always going somewhere. And we went to Heron Kimse, which is one of the castles, believed made by King Ludwig, but it's on Lake Kimse, and there's wind sailing, there's windsurfing there, and it's just a little lake. There's a little bit of a beach, and it's also all beaches in Germany are like clothing optional, and so we go, and my friend shows up in typical. He's been living in Germany for several years, so he's in a Speedo. And somewhere throughout the day, as we're like windsurfing, having a lot of fun. As far as I know, he was straight. I'm straight. Always have been. It's important to the story. Just bear with me. And so we're gonna. I don't think twice about it, right? I lived in a city where like you drive through the middle of the city, and the river. There's a river that goes through it, and there's a little beach, and people will sunbathe nude on the beach in the middle of the city. And you can see them from like the bridge, like driving through the city. Not a big deal. That's just how it is. In Germany too, another thing is that like women being topless in hospitals is not really an odd thing. They won't even, at least at the time, they wouldn't even cover up if they needed to take off your shirt for a procedure or whatever. I can also tell you, I don't go too many stories here, but there was a few situations because I worked in a hospital where I was like, oh my God, this, shelter kid from the deep south being like, oh my God, this woman doesn't mind being naked in the room with me while she's changing for this procedure. Oh my God. So we go windsurfing. What's that?
Look at the floor, quick.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like I turn around and somebody's like mostly naked, and I'm like, oh God. I'm like, I was gonna leave the room in a second. Let me pretend like I'm still filling out this chart. I was 17, 18 at the time. I was probably 18 by that time. So anyways, so we're windsurfing. At some point, my friend falls off of the board, and he somehow catches the back of his Speedo on part of the wind sail, and it tears. So he's like, oh my God, he's laughing about it. It's hilarious. But like basically his left like thigh and butt all the way up to the waist. Basically, he just has a waistband just completely blown out. Okay. So, it's laughing, it's awkward, it's funny, whatever. It's still awkward for me, but I'm pretending like it's not awkward at this point. Daedric says your neck looking a little red. Absolutely, Daedric, 100%. So we go. It's a good time. It's not great wind sailing, but I'd never done anything like that before, so it was fun. It was cool. I'm from a landlocked area. We get done, and he's like, "Oh, dude, we gotta get like a picture." And he's like, yeah, let's get one in front of like the windsurfing school, And so we're like looking around trying to find like an old man that has, clothes on to ask him to take a picture of us. Because again, clothing optional. And he's like, yeah, get in here. And he like puts his arm around me. So we got our arms around each other. And so there's this picture of me with a dude with a Speedo that's only kind of on in front of a windsurfing school. Fast forward a couple of years later, I get back from Germany, and I'm like, we're looking through pictures, and my sister pulls out this picture of me with a guy with a mostly blown out Speedo, and she's like, what's going on here, Jonathan? Great fun. A lot laughs were had by all, mostly at my expense. It was a great time. But after a while of being in Germany, that was just kind of like the way things were done. There's stuff, and I'm talking about some of the stuff that's like awkward, but like, there's co-ed changing rooms at all the gyms, and it's just not a big deal there. It's just kind of how things are done. but there's many other things that are much more important as far as like cultural differences. But it's I would just my point with all of that is I would just encourage everybody, if you ever get the chance, even if it's different parts of the US, go see how people different than you live. Talk to them, figure out why they think and believe the things they do. I don't know. I'm a bit of a, I say I'm a bit of a xenophile. I just love people that are different than me. And it's one of the reasons, to bring it all back full circle, it's one of the reasons I like playing games and, doing trials, is because you get to meet people from all over the place who will roll their eyes at some of the things that you take for granted as being, the way things are done or a cultural thing or whatever. And I just think it's so fun to explore and figure out what different people. Did you have any, hopefully not exactly like that, Nani, but did you have any other experiences like that?
Yeah, actually, because I lived in your neck of the woods for a couple of years. One of
Okay.
my very first assignments as Avon Corporate was to go to rural Texas.
Oh man, whereabouts?
In it was 1999,
Okay.
and I was initially in Houston, and then my first assignment was in a little town called Lumberton, Texas.
I don't even know that town.
Highway 10 out to Beaumont, hang a left, go 6 miles, and you'll run into Lumberton.
Okay.
Um, it was, like you said, it's very deep South and Southern values. And as a young woman growing up in the Pacific Northwest, very different culturally. I was asked to wear gloves. I had to wear a skirt and pantyhose when I went to Avon ladies' houses. And I had to wear a hat with my outfit when I gave presentations to the ladies of the South.
Gloves?
Gloves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. All right.
So coming from the Pacific Northwest, that was about as big a culture shock as I've ever had.
Yeah. I mean, that's even a little bit for me. I mean, I know there's some, there's some oh, there's some smaller areas where subcultures still thrive and it can be quite different. That is,
Yeah.
that's for sure. But yeah, wow, that's interesting.
I
Uh,
felt one of these days I was going to like run into Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the
Gone with the
Wind kind
Wind.
of
Oh my god.
environment.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Hey, in game guys, I don't know if you guys saw this earlier. Hold on, let me pop it up a little bit larger. Right over here on the right somewhere. Yeah, Eleanor Pugh polished. Guys, he sell for like 200K. I got one within like 2 minutes of stealing here. I don't know if you guys saw that. I'm kind of stealing in the background, Nani. I can stop anytime I want. But yeah, just know this is where you come, guys. This is where you come. It's good. I think you can make like 200K in like, I don't know, 30 minutes stealing here. So if you're looking for gold, and especially if you're new to the game, come to Eleanor, come to Shimmerine. Well, let me pull up my notes here because there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. I guess this would be a good time to transition. Wampus says yes, European stations were the best. Absolutely agree. Naples, Italy was his favorite. That's cool. I went down to Italy once. A lot of our bases in the U.S. were in Germany. We've closed most of those down at this point. We were closing them down in the early 2000s, and they were old Nazi posts. For anybody who doesn't know, and when I say that, like literally, there would be eagles, and then below them, where there would have been a swastika, it was chiseled out. You were in the Navy, okay, cool, yeah, and the Air Force has more bases in Italy. I know, and I have no idea what the Navy has anywhere, but so we have a lot of these like small posts. They're also really interesting too because they would be in different places in the city, but they were all connected underground. It was all closed up, but you could literally travel, and it was because of World War II to avoid like bombings basically and being able to see troop movements. They were connected underground. But yeah, anyways. Jawal says, when I moved to the US, I thought and still think that it's really stupid for people to go into the toilet stalls inside the changing rooms and gyms, etc. when changing. That's funny. And Jawal is from a Norwegian country. Um, I won't dox you, Joel, but I'll, just say that. Uh, Terrell says gloves is wild. Terrell, I read that as gloves gone wild for it there, and, and I just thought that was hilarious. Wampa says, okay, is in the Navy. Um, you know, gloves gone wild. I would like to see that video. To be totally honest with you, it could be like a, Victorian era where you're like showing ankle. There is a on YouTube here, guys. There's a she's a historian who covers like and I don't remember the name of the channel, forgive me, but there's probably only a couple. But she's a historian who will do like period pieces. I think mostly dresses, but she'll talk about sewing and stuff like that. And since I'm a tabletop nerd, I'm into this kind of. I mean, I'm not like super into it, but I'm kind of into it. And I think she actually did one where she made like an OnlyFans, but it was for like ankle pics from like Victoria. So it's her showing her ankle in like Victorian era skirts. It's just hilarious, right? Everything's wholesome. But I just personally find it kind of hilarious. Um, I digress. I'm all over the place today. So one of the things that with this, understanding how other people live and what's normal for them and why they think what they do. And man, I must have given so many people. You got to think again, a trailer park white trash kid from the deep south in the U.S. suddenly transplanted to Germany. I and I again just not super educated, right? And grew up with a bunch of people that probably were not super educated. I must have given so many people great stories that unfortunately I don't know any of those people anymore. But just from being there, but getting to know people. One of the things to talk about a little bit more about games. We've talked about this a bit recently, but random normals. I think random normals. I've been thinking about this. Okay, all right. It was a little bit late at night. So get a little, a little bit of crazy thoughts probably going through my head, at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I think that random normals might be like a microcosm for like real life. What do you think, Nani? Am I onto something
I
here? Or am I absolutely crazy?
No, I think yeah, you've got four different people from who knows where. Some will want to chat, some won't. Some are going to know what they're doing, some won't. And everybody has a different goal,
Yeah, different
right?
expectations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
One person just wants to get it over and done with, they get their transmutes. You may have somebody else who's brand new to the game and in their very first dungeon. Someone else that may just be wanting to get their quest done. And you got to take all different goals and put them together for, 20 minutes in a dungeon.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think you put it perfectly there. Yeah, I think that you know the number of people that so I'll talk about this from my perspective, and I want to talk about fake tanking a bit. And I wanted to talk. I've been planning on talking about fake tanking in this stream, but I didn't really want to be like fake tanking because like I feel like it draws a connotation. People have done videos on it and what have you, and a little bit more. What do I want to say? Contentious than I think it needs to be. And so I kind of wanted to just talk about it in like a reasonable, down to earth way. So I'll tell you about my experience. So currently, whenever I go into a dungeon, first of all, I never real tank a normal. I'm always running DPS something because you get in groups and the DPS can be very low. We'll get there. We'll talk about it. But I'm always quote unquote fake tanking. I always make sure now to bring a taunt, and I also and I can stay alive, right? Historically, I would and it started out and I wouldn't bring a taunt at all, and then I realized in my thought process there. And you can see this if we get together four in-game players and you go into a random normal, we'll melt everything before it hardly spawns. Nani, can you back me up on this?
Oh. 100%. Yes.
Yeah, just everything just absolutely melts. We're dropping ultimates. We're optimized, even pseudo optimized for everything. We're making sure we have major and minor breach on the boss, and we're just if it's like a DLC or something. If it's not, it honestly doesn't even matter. And we're just nuking everything as soon as it spawns. Okay, it's fun. We're sprinting through. We don't stop for any trash along the way. We pull from boss to boss, only stopping when we absolutely have to, or if it's like more efficient to stop there. And I, for the longest time, that was my experience. This is before I was streaming, by the way, and before I was playing ESO, like, covering it. And so you just run from boss to boss. That's what you do. And you just nuke everything. Why would I put on a taunt? Nothing hits hard enough. Like, you should be fine. Roll dodge the heavies kind of thing. It's not really a big deal. Or block them. And then what I learned is, and some of this is learning from getting my wife into the game, and she started playing, and she's like, why this guy's chasing me around? It's really annoying when these guys are chasing me around. And I was like, oh, that's annoying to some people. I had no idea. I should okay. I would ask people, hey guys, do you want me to slot a taunt? And I would just ask, like, and if nobody said anything, I wouldn't, because it's taking up bar space and I would rather do more damage. um and then I realized, like, oh, for a lot of people that's really frustrating, it's upsetting, they can't stay alive, it doesn't go well. Nani, what's your experience with all of this, if I can ask?
Well, back in my day, honestly, it was very frustrating because as you know, I'm new to the end game stuff, right? I've only been doing this for a couple years. I had never been in a trial before. I think 2.5 years ago. So most of my ESO experience is the casual overland player, and I would try to go to get a dungeon done, and I would get the tank, quote unquote, that would just run straight through to the boss, kill the boss, and then they'd move on. And the rest of us were kind of like dying in the back because we didn't hit hard enough. I wouldn't know to dodge roll. What? Huh? What do you mean dodge roll a heavy? What's that mean? So the difference in experiences and knowledge of the game is great when you get that. Yeah, it's just a huge disparity between the end game player who knows how to manage all those mechanics and someone who's just like, oh, cool, a dungeon. Let me hear what they have to say. Oh, I have to go and kill these guys? Okay, let's go do that. Very different.
Yeah, and I think that is, people talk about and I believe I believe it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, if I'm remembering my effects correctly. A lot of people talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's the measured. So we have science, we have data on this, on people to, if they don't know a lot about a subject, they will tend to overestimate what they do know, like their general knowledge of it. And the reason for that is because they don't know what they don't know, right? They think that they understand everything there is to understand. It's kind of like taking a college chemistry course and thinking that you understand all of chemistry and like chemical engineering, right?
Mhm.
When that's all you've taken. Now, to demonstrate, people get, 4-year degrees and even doctorate degrees in that field. So thinking that you took 1 or 2 semesters when someone else would actually take several years worth of college courses to have mastery of that thing, you can kind of see how, yeah, definitely taking that one course is not going to give you all the requisite, information that you would need for that. Also, we got another recipe for the Eleanor Pew here, which is kind of crazy. Sometimes that happens. Also, I just want to read these chats here, and then we'll jump back. Wampa says, my oldest son was born in Frankfurt. Oh, okay. Army Hospital. Okay, the 97th General. Okay, cool. I was stationed not too far from there, Wampus. And then Terrell says, it's really annoying when you're new. After I got familiar with the mechs and a solid build, it didn't matter to me anymore. But yeah, being really annoyed when you're new. Yeah, absolutely. And then Wampus just says, yeah, I agree. Yeah, the thing there is that the other side of the oh my gosh, I'm aggroing people, and I'm like I said, I'm casually stealing in the background. Um, the other thing that, the other side of that, for um, those who don't know, is that people who know a lot about a subject will tend to underestimate how much they know. So someone who has, for example, and I saw this a lot. My wife has a doctorate degree in a STEM field, and a lot of her friends, and who were other grad students at the time, and again, all in STEM fields. There's this. These are people that have gone to school for a very long time, been very studious, spent a lot of time learning about a thing, and whenever they go to get their doctorate degree, to like finish it up, defend is what you I think there's probably different terms for it, but often they would say defend your thesis. In STEM fields, typically that's what you do. I think in certain other fields you call it something different. But whenever they would go to defend, they would feel like they didn't know anything about chemistry. And they would say things like that. Like, I don't know anything. What am I doing? I don't know anything about what I'm doing. And it's like, what are you talking about? You've been studying this intensely for like 8 years. You work, 80 hours a week in, grad study, like doing research on this. Like you've studied it this much, and they feel like they don't know anything about it. This is a very common thing. I would say, and they would also, there's also, studies about how much, you expect other people to know. So one thing I would also see, and again, there's data to back this up, but I'm telling you anecdotal stories because it's a bit more interesting. Um, these friends, and we still see many of them, right? So a lot of them have moved different places, but we still see many of them. They'll talk, and again, I'm the uneducated person in this group, right? Didn't graduate high school, have done some college, and at this point, and they'll say things like, "Oh yeah, like stuff is common knowledge." They'll say things that's very common knowledge to most people, and I'll be like, "That's not common knowledge at all." And it's the thing is, to them, all the people they know are a lot of the people they went to school with, a lot of people they work with, and a lot of people that they have similar interests with, which are generally incredibly educated people. I remember playing tabletop once. This is a totally different group, totally separate group of people, and they were talking. It was playing GURPS, and they were like, "Oh, well, we could just calculate the drag coefficient to figure out what our strength is and how far we could drag this much weight. But to do that, we need to figure out how much friction there is. So the drag coefficient of whatever it was, a wooden box on loose shale or something." And I was like, I mean, you can do that. I have no idea how to do that. Turns out it's relatively straightforward calculation. But at the time, I was like, yeah, I have no idea how to do that. I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. And I think that people have a propensity to do that. And that happens with games. I have I think we looked it up the other day. I have like 20,000 hours in ESO. So what I expect and think it is common knowledge, what I expect that people have you can look up Terrell is like friction of a box. That is not common knowledge. It's not common knowledge. It's not common knowledge. A lot of people know how to calculate, though. There's a pretty simple formula for calculating, drag coefficients. Or actually, I'm sorry, you can look up drag coefficients and you can calculate the force needed, Terrell. But yeah, it's maybe not common knowledge. But I play this game a lot, and I so much so that it's very easy for me and other people, like we're talking about in game, to forget how much we know and to not really think about the fact that for a new player like you guys are talking about, it's incredibly frustrating, and it is easy to die because you don't know what's going on. You don't know what the buttons do. You got to look at your bar. You probably don't have that great of a build, all that stuff. And it's not necessarily that the person at endgame is trying to be a jerk. Talking about all those stories where I was the person who was running through, pulling people from boss to boss, and turns out just being a complete asshole, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how most people, yeah. Nani's like, yep, yes, you were.
I may have called you an asshat in game, and I don't even know it.
And I wasn't trying to ruin anybody's fun. And it's slowly over time, I realized, oh, this is, and honestly, yeah, full transparency, I think playing with Lyriel, my wife, has helped me a ton with that because she hasn't played games since she was like, 6 or whatever. And also she doesn't play, she has a real job. She doesn't play games for a living. And so the difference in, you know, experience and what it's like, um, is just night and day. And so understanding like, oh, this is annoying. Oh, this is frustrating for you when I honestly wouldn't even have thought twice about it has been very eye opening. So part of what I want to talk about today, and part of the reason I want to talk about this is to like, I just want to help both sides understand the other side. You can still be mad, you can still be pissed off, but I just want to help us kind of like understand each other, I guess, if you will. Nani, do you have anything to add to that? I've been monologuing a lot. I want to make sure that I know you have some I know you have some good stuff to say. I want to make sure that you have the space to say it.
I don't know if I've got good stuff to say. I think it's a great concept. Yeah, we see things from different points of view, and part of it, especially as end game players, um, maybe slowing down a little bit and helping people that want to get to end game, not by showing them how good this is, but how they can get there with their own knowledge and at their own pace.
Yeah, and
I don't
I
know if that makes sense.
yeah, no, it totally does. And I would say along those lines too, if you are the main thing I would recommend for everybody, guys, if you queue into a dungeon or a random normal, a trial, whatever, I know this is scary. I know we're a bunch of nerds that don't want to talk to people, a lot of times. Say something. Just talk. Okay, you don't have to say much. You can just say hi. That is one of the biggest things. I will see people who will just they won't say anything and they'll be mad about something and then maybe they'll explode or they'll rage quit or something else. Um, just just talk and if you're that's I was kind of slowly learning like hey I should ask people hey guys do you want me to slot a taunt and again if you're in a sweaty group with 4 people that are sweaty in gamers like we don't even care. It's just whoever gets aggro it's fine like don't waste the bar space. That's kind of the mentality that most of us have unless there's a particular reason why it would be particularly useful in one situation over another. So I would just ask people, but and I'm not talking about that specific thing, but there's a lot of people I will see in groups that just won't talk. They won't say anything. And I know that people can be toxic and people will be jerks and you've probably had some bad experience with someone, but there's so many times where I'm trying to like talk to people and feel them out and figure like, "Hey, do you have the quest? Are you waiting on the quest?" Or if you're the person who, is, "Hey guys, do you mind waiting for the quest?" Because during all of this time, if someone would just be like, "Hey, do you mind waiting? I'm trying to do the quest," I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, no problem, no big deal." I'm sprinting through the dungeon because I honestly I'm just thinking about myself as most of us do, and I'm not thinking about what the other needs of the other 3 people in the group, right? Which would be a little odd, honestly, if I was too much. It's just not something we do, right? You gotta help take care of yourself. Um, to some degree. And so just like chatting with people and just being like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this." When people are like, "Hey, I'm new. I don't know what's going on." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I can understand what's going on then." And it can really help you to have a better experience. I know it's scary, but like communicating just a little bit is probably the biggest thing for both sides of the spectrum to do so that like things will just go better for everybody.
I think there's a life lesson in that, Night.
I think there might be a life lesson in that. Just talking to the other side and trying to understand. And you know what? You might find that like the person that's like, "Listen, I'm just here for the transmutes. I got 10 minutes till I got to be somewhere else. I got to run through here." And you might be like, "Okay, yeah, I don't want to deal with that." I have been in situations where I'm like, "Hey guys, can you?" I have asked people to kick me from the group because if you get kicked from a group, at least historically, I don't know if this is still true. Someone confirm for me. You wouldn't have to worry about the cooldown timer for abandoning a group. And you could be the new person who's like, oh, I really want to do the story. Like, you guys are cool. It's cool if you guys want to sprint through. Do you mind just kicking me from group so I can re-queue and not have to worry about the cooldown timer? Doing stuff like that. Well, is it a good experience? Maybe not. Is it a better experience than it otherwise would have been? I would argue yes. That's just, my two pennies on that. Wampa says, took me forever. Sorry, these are a bit. I haven't been keeping up on chat there. Wampa says, took me forever to figure out what light weaving was, and then trying to get good at it, and then trying to reach a certain DPS plateau so I could try vet trials with a guild. And then Terrell says, and take into consideration with new players. That new players may want to hear the NPC chatter. Waiting 10 seconds won't kill you. Yeah, absolutely, Terrell. The first time I was playing ESO before I quit, I never thought I'd hit like 30k DPS. And light attack weaving was confusing and it was frustrating. And I would try to parse and I would never improve. I think in hindsight, I was trying to play on a laptop that didn't meet the minimum system requirements, and it was probably a big part of the problem. But I just never thought I would hit like the high DPS numbers, and so yeah, absolutely, it can be very frustrating if you're a new player, for sure. I think that's a lot of what we try to do in I Wasn't the Boss, the guild slash Discord, where I mean we're a trials guild, so we're not the best place for someone who is just getting into the game. And I try to make that clear to people to understand that, like, hey, if you're trying to learn the very basics of the game, probably not the best place for you. If you're someone who has played a lot of games and you've done in game and other MMOs or whatever, and you're like a sweaty player and you want that's what you want to do, then maybe it's fine because we can give you'll advance at a much faster rate than somebody else. That's another thing too, is that understanding that people progress at grossly different levels because of a big part of it is how much time they have to play. But a lot of it is too, like, what's your experience? How many other games are you playing? Have you played a game like this before? And just general, some people are more dexterous than others. Some aren't.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nani.
It's good. Sorry, it just made me the whole some are more dexterous. Yeah, I've got a couple of different types of players that come through that wasn't the boss. Um, and I love them all. One of them that stands out is the player that is new to endgame but understands it well. They'll come in, never done a trial before, but they want to learn. They'll come through and they'll do my training vet trials and they make it through, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, and then they've got it. They've already outgrown basic training trials.
Yeah.
And they're ready to move on to hard modes, sweaty content. They want trifectas. That's their goal.
Yeah.
And then we have those that have been in trials for some time, but they like just doing vet trials. And they'll stay in training trials and still learning and still growing every time. But they can probably stay in training trials for the rest of their ESO career and be perfectly happy with it.
Right.
And then we've got all of the in between. So that's one of the things that I enjoy about the training trials.
Well, and for a lot of people who are those like sweaty players, historically, and I still think it's somewhat true. One Discord is probably not going to fulfill, like, if you're someone who people dive in, and if they want to play, they want to raid every night of the week, and they've got a schedule where they can do that, or they have a weird schedule, but they want to raid every night of the week. You're going to have to join multiple Discords. You're going to have to, like, to be able to run group content. And I think historically we've had a lot of people who would get frustrated a little bit too because they are progressing at a faster rate than everybody else in a group. And I always try to explain to those people, like, hey, just go on. It's totally fine for you to move on. A lot of what we do is we're trying to get people into in-game. We have some groups that do sweaty in-game content, but that's a minority of what we do. Most of what we do is help people, like, that initial gap of getting into like the veteran trials and stuff like that. And it can be really hard to have a lot of groups with disparate skills in the same Discord. And I don't know a solution to this, by the way. This has been a problem. I mean, we can crowdsource it here, I suppose, but this has been a problem since we've been a Discord. And I've seen it with other Discords before that, where if you have trials where, let's say we put up a Rock Grove farm, a farming run, we expect a 30-minute clear ish, and to be able to do like 2 clears in an hour. That's what we generally expect with that. We also have expectations that everybody knows all the mechanics. People are generally speaking not going to fail any of the mechanics, and if they do, it's kind of funny and we just recover. If we do fail in the mechanics, we do recover. We shouldn't have to wipe, and we should be through and pretty quick. Whenever you have that, and then you have people that are brand new, they always want to be in the better group because they always feel like they're less for not being in the sweatier group. Whenever we have all of our tags for rating, like what kind of content you can do, everybody always wants to be in the tier higher than they probably should be. And I don't know how to solve that problem, but it's so hard because people hate, and I understand it. No one wants to feel like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have that tag, or hey, you shouldn't be in this run, you're not good enough. And we never want people to feel like that. But there is like you got to understand where you're at. So in the Discord, I don't have our highest tags. We have tags that are above what I have. Why?
Same.
Because I don't have. It's the same for you, Nani.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't have logs for those highest tags. We require seeing logs so that we can know that you actually know what you're doing. Because for that highest tag, you should be able to drop into a hard mode group that is trying for a trifecta and be an asset to the team, not a detriment. And I don't know how to solve. I don't know. There's several problems there. Nani, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a tough one because like, open runs is a prime example, and I'm going to use this week as an example. We went in, and it's pretty standard anymore that somebody says, well, let's just do the hard mode. And for an open run, depending on the trial, it's open, right?
Yeah.
So we have a vast discrepancy in people's experience. And nobody is going to say, I don't want to do that because I don't feel confident in it. Even if they did have the confidence to say that, somebody would say, oh, no worries, we've got you. And we would still put them in that uncomfortable position, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is we've got the color, I go by colors. I forget what you named all the different tags, but say it's a Sunspire, so it's green and blue. And of course anything above that, but it's designed for green and blue.
Well, let's just make, guys, the tags, they go in the same as the rarity of gear in ESO. So there's white, which I don't think we hardly use, green, blue, purple, gold. Just want to make that clear. Go ahead, Nani. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So yeah, so let's say I'm doing a DSR open, and the tags that we ping are blue and purple, and I get somebody that's green that X's up. That ends up a conversation via DMs about what their experiences are, and they may not have the next tag level for something simple, but they've had enough experience that I feel good about them coming in. So I'll open it up to, maybe 1 or 2 that have the green tag, even though it's a blue and purple run, but at least everybody knows what to expect.
Yeah. Well,
we
and
don't
that.
do Sorry.
No, please continue.
I was just thinking I don't do gear farms anymore. Typically because a gear farm's requirements are for people who already have the gear.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that people ask for that too, and the getting everybody on the same page on what a gear farm means yeah, I think it's usually gear farms or like when a new trial or something comes out and
Hmm.
people are really experienced and we're just trying to fill up our sticker book quickly, and those are when that's generally speaking more used. I just want to catch up on chat here for a second, but I also want to show everybody um, a clip real quick because I think this is on the this is a short from a live stream, guys. I'm gonna pop up real quick.
I don't think we could three pad hard mode. I
No.
Yeah,
Let's
I
let
thought it was
everybody
just regular.
experience it though, because I
Yeah.
think that there's a bunch of people that want to experience wiping. So so we'll just yeah. All right, so we're in VMall, and I don't know if we're doing hard mode or not here, but somebody is like, people want to do a three pad. They want to try. It's kind of like the let's try hard mode thing, but they want to try for a three pad bird. And I and several other experienced people in this particular group knew that the group was not ready for that. We were wiping on twins. No way in hell we were going to do a three pad burn. But people were asking for it. And so I'm like, yeah, somebody's like, I don't think we can do a three pad burn. And I'm like, yeah, I think that some people want to experience wiping. So like let's try it. They can see how difficult it is, and then they can realize that yeah, we're nowhere close. We're going to be at like, you know, 50% health when we should be at almost zero, right? So I think that it's just a mentality that, and I don't blame anybody. Like, you know, you always want to do the harder thing, but it's the game should inform you a bit about the various levels. To catch up on chat, hey Juan Carlos, how's it going, man? Um, and then Terrell says, yeah, having an MMO background is a huge factor with all of this for sure. It's very rare now that I come. Wampus says it's very rare now that I come across a toxic person in ESO. Wampus, Wampus might be getting to. This is actually very true. Um, a lot of people have quit in game, and while that's unfortunate because a lot of them were really fun people to play with and great people that had a lot of knowledge and everything, there's also this huge contingent of people in ESO who were very toxic because the in game is very small, guys, like really small. Like everybody in game knows somebody who knows everybody else. You're like 2 degrees of separation, if that, and and people have like reputations too. That's the other thing. It's like it's such a small community. A lot of them have been very toxic for a very long time. And what's crazy about it to me is that Zoss has not cared and has promoted people within their like stream teams who would just be complete jerks on stream. On stream. Like that's just crazy to me that you would, you know, and would be mean to people in situations where like if anywhere you were going to be on your best behavior. I'm not trying to judge someone by their worst day when they're frustrated about something else or whatever, or if there's a misunderstanding. That happens, again, that happens all the time. We just talked about how, you know, it's very easy to not understand what's going on with, you know, on the other side of the screen, right? That's the other thing, is like you might be in a random normal and someone might have a an issue or a disability where like they can't click buttons as fast as you. You never know what's going on. But, you know, ESO promoting people on their stream team who would be actively toxic and they still do it. They still do it. That's the crazy thing too. Um, it's just kind of nuts to me. But a lot of them have left, and I think that that is overall, like, honestly, there's an argument to be made. I'm not so sure I agree with it, but I think there's an argument to be made that burning down in game was good to get rid of those toxic people. I actually see this in a lot of games, and I see it in Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation, their Discord. Um, I have had so many bad experiences in their official Discord, and they never do anything about it. And if you allow that to happen in your game and you don't deal with that, I mean, it's the same with like teabagging in PvP, right? Like, I don't care if someone does something mean to me on a video game. I'm a YouTuber, right? Like, people say mean shit to me all the time. I don't really care. If I did, I wouldn't be doing the thing I'm doing. But the fact that they like it shouldn't be allowed. It's poor sportsmanship. There is no game, there is no sport IRL where you could act like that and it would be okay. And Zoss, their take on it is like it's fine. And I think that's absolutely wild. All right, Daedric said some things, and I bet they're pretty intelligent. So let's see what he's got to say. And I see Robert here also has a few comments. Daedric says communicating expectations is the number one way to make everyone involved feel better about what's going down, whether you're the lead or just running in the group. Most group drama comes from mismatched expectations. I would absolutely agree with that. Nani, what do you think?
Absolutely.
I,
Agreed. I try really hard, especially in the core groups that are, long-term cores. I'm just there to facilitate. I want everyone in the group to feel a part of the team. So everybody's opinion is important, and how everybody's feeling is important. Um, so yeah, I agreed. Communication first and foremost.
which is I think part of the issue with random normals is because you have a whole bunch of people coming into random normals for different reasons. Some people are coming in to do the quest and they just need to get a group of people. Some people just enjoy it and that's like that's kind of the thing they do. Some of us are just, historically, this I don't need them anymore, but I would just be running through for transmutes or for XP or, whatever it happens to be. And by kind of forcing those people all into one group and there being no communication, I think that's one of the reasons why it leads to so many bad experiences.
I agree.
Robert Miller, hey Robert, by the way, says that should absolutely be expected in high-level hard mode groups. That's something that should be submitted ahead of time, and then Discord tags could mark those who've been approved for hard modes. Stream team choices seem to be just on the following in some cases over quality of the streamers. Yeah, Robert, they don't care at all about what the streamer is like. They just care how many people follow them. 100 and companies do that across the board. They don't care about what it's wild to me because it's like they don't care about brand safety. But yeah, a lot of companies don't care. They just care how many people watch somebody. And then Robert also says, not that some aren't great, but yeah, some are toxic. Yeah, some are great. Yeah, for sure. And then some are pretty toxic. Man, there's a couple of things here that I kind of want to say, like with the the random. What's can you hear me? I'm still here. Can you hear me? Oh no,
I don't know about the stream, but I can't hear you.
Oh, that's odd. Still can't hear me. Yeah, I can see that you guys can hear me. I don't know why she can't.
I can hear you through the stream. I cannot hear you through Discord.
Nani, I'll drop Discord and join Becky and see if that fixes it. You'll turn it off and turn it back on thing. But I think it could be on your end. Can you hear me at all? Yeah, Nani, we might have to. Yeah, I know you guys can hear me. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I can see the.
Yeah, I got you now. You're back.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I dropped Discord. I don't know if that was the trick or not. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But there are a couple of things about like the random normals, like the expectations that everybody has going in there. What was I going to say? I don't recall now. Well, we can move on. Let me check my notes too. Yeah, but I think, and also, guys, I actually did a video on like raid leading and talking about, I think, basically saying what Daedric said there, which is, I think that expectations are like the number one important thing. Is getting everybody on the same page of what a group is and what they're doing is the number one thing that will cause a group to either go great or go like off the rails. And you see this, I always, even in my pug groups, that's one of the reasons I think they often will go fairly well, is because I always try to make sure that everybody knows, like, hey guys, cool, this is a fun group, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, we're just here to have fun. If you're sweaty, great, you can help out everybody else. But if you're expecting a quick clear or clear it all, like we might not do it, right? And I put training runs. So the whole point, for me, the purpose of a training run is not to clear. The purpose is for people to learn and people to have fun learning. So having things like that, I think, is pretty crucial. We've kind of moved into it, talking about raid leading a bit. I've got a list of a handful of things that I want to kind of communicate that I think are pretty interesting, from raid leading to real life. But Nani, do you have anything that off the top of your head, and or maybe you want to just riff on what I have to say after a bit?
Yeah, go ahead. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay, cool, cool. Also, thank you for everybody in chat for helping out with the audio issues, guys. It's usually me, but today it might not have been. But it's always a tremendous help if there's ever anything wrong with the stream. If you guys can just tell me, live streaming can be hard, and sometimes programs just stop working all of a sudden. So yeah, I want to talk about. So it's interesting because there's two sides of this coin. I think that raid leading can teach you a lot about life, as can gaming. Uh, and I think if you're, for me, because I think life, I think I learned a lot about life, and then I could apply that to raid leading. But I honestly think it flows either way, and it's one of those things where, like, people are. I don't think this is much of a deal, but certainly when growing up in like the 90s or whatever, where like it's like, oh, video games, and it's bad for kids, and there's violence, or whatever, and it's not great for kids. I don't think that, especially MMOs, like, I don't think anything could be further from the truth. I think people interacting with each other, yes, you can have bad interactions, and you could choose to always have bad interactions and never learn anything, but I think in aggregate you learn a lot. Some of the things you learn from raid leading, oh man, and I wish more people understood this. Number one is like how to talk to people, and this is something that I've never been. I historically was horrible at. Right? Again, was. I would just tell people to, like, I'd be very blunt with people and just tell them stuff that, no sugarcoating, no anything else. I hope that I've been better, but learning how to talk to people and not be a jerk. And a lot of times, again, we're nerds. A lot of times I hear people that'll just be like, let me give you an example from real life. Okay. We're playing a game, a board game, and we're playing, my wife is there, and one of my friends who is, now you would say that he's on the spectrum, right? Asperger's, whatever you want to call it. And he's, he had some real life issue going on, and my wife is trying to offer him some advice, and he needs it. Okay. He needs the advice. He should be listening. And my wife is telling him, giving him the advice, kind of wrapped in her own personal, like, a story that has been going on with her. And my friend, in the middle, she's in mid sentence, mid word, goes, "It's your turn." Much more brash and like strong than that, but he's just like, "It's your turn. Like, why aren't you going?" Because it was her turn, and she's trying to tell him this heartfelt story that will both make him feel better, but also maybe give him a life lesson. And he's just like, "It's your turn," just interrupted her. It's a moment that stuck with us, right? He was doing the best he could, but that kind of thing, people learning that, hey man, telling someone that they're wrong, you can do it in a nice way, is absolutely huge, and I think raid leading can help you with that. The other thing, or another thing rather, is learning, and these are all kind of go together, guys. Just for clarity, is learning how to get the best out of your team. So we know from data, I'm a big fan of data. I don't know if you guys know that, and research. We know from research that people will perform the best, or will perform better, in an atmosphere of approval than in an atmosphere of disapproval. So getting the best out of your team means, a lot of times in the raids, and people kind of joke, or I'm really positive. First off, I'm just having fun a lot of times. Like, the more chaos and, insane stuff that's going on, like, the more joy I have from the group. But there's also this part of it where you just want to keep things positive, because if you keep things positive, people will perform better. If you make someone feel like crap, and I still do this, guys, and I really do try not to do it, but I just make, we all make mistakes. You guys can watch my streams and see me do it live, right? Where I realize that something I've done or talking to somebody has made them not feel good, they will perform worse. So if you want the best out of your team, you absolutely need to, keep it positive and keep them in that situation. Daedric says, you get what you put in with video games. They can teach you an insane amount of things, but you have to actually look for the stuff that challenges you instead of passively consuming. for sure. And I think you could say that almost about life, Daedric. And then Wampa says there's no joy in Vast plus 2. Well, maybe.
I disagree, Wampus.
There you go. Another thing is that like raid leading specifically can teach you how to lead more generally, and knowing how to lead more generally can inform your raid leading. So this is a lot of different stuff. Like, I mean, first off, like, a main thing is like modeling behavior, right? If you want people in your group to act a certain way, then you need to show them by acting that certain way, right? If you want people to be, one of the things you'll see in a lot of my streams, guys, I say when I mess up. I am always trying to tell you guys and the group oftentimes when I am making mistakes or when I am not even like achieving what I would consider what I am capable of or desirable outcomes or results, right? Like, hey, my up times are really bad right now. Now, some of that I try not to do too much of it because people that are not as good as me will be like, oh, well, if Night Haro is, saying that his up times are bad, mine are atrocious. I don't want people to feel like that. So there's some kind of balance there. But the other thing is that I want people to understand that it's okay to be like, oh, yeah, hey, why'd you die? I fucked up. I don't know. Like, yeah, I messed up. I missed the block, or I overcast skills and I ran out of resources. Like, and I want people to feel comfortable with that because a lot of times, for example, in a raid, I'm just trying to problem solve. So I'm like, hey, do you know why you died? A lot of times I'm just like, do you know why? And if you know why as a tank, I'm like, cool, I'll just move on. But trying to like model those things and say, hey, like I'm making mistakes here is I think, one of the things that's pretty important. I think making sure that you put other people ahead of yourself, also incredibly important. It shows people that you care about them. And if you care about them, they're going to try to work for the good of the team, right? They realize that they're a valuable member of the team in that situation. And so they're going to try to like help out the team. And that's how you get one of the ways you get the most out of people. The other stuff is like treating everybody with dignity and respect. And, this is one of the things that just like real life and just like you can have people from all over the place. And what is okay, we get a bunch of sweaty in-game players together and we'll harass each other. Like we'll be kind of mean, and we're not being mean. It's just like, like someone cast their Warhorn at the wrong time and you're like, so Nani, what's up with that Warhorn? We're in between trash pulls. Is there a reason you dropped all your ult? We're just having fun, right? But, so there's a lot of different things with that. The other thing is that, again, just like in real life, what is considered normal to some people might not be considered normal to others. And what can be offensive to one group might not be offensive to another. And so there could be situations where you can upset or offend people or be offended yourself when no one is really trying to. And learning that kind of moves into the next point here, which is like recognizing the limits of your knowledge and having a bit of humility about that. And what I mean by that, it's a very general statement, and it's meant to be, okay? So when I say like recognizing the limits of your knowledge, like you don't know who's on the other side of the keyboard. You don't know. I mean, I've played with people and they're like, yeah, I have problems bar swapping because of this, and I'm like, okay, well, you can do this or that or whatever. And I don't ask. I don't care if you tell me. It's helpful if I'm going to help you if you tell me like what the issue is. But I've had people be like, yeah, I'm missing a thumb, or like I'm missing a hand or whatever, where it's like, oh, okay. Or, there's some issue that you have no idea. And listen, no one wants to come out and tell you their life story for no friggin' reason. So like if someone is having a problem, just realize that like that might be where they're at. The other thing is they could be new to games or just not as good as you, okay? Or not as good as somebody else. That's okay. Just recognizing that. And then the other thing is like realizing, when we're talking about, like Joel was talking about, and I was talking about with, social norms, right? Like in some places in the US and even outside the US, people will be more or less direct. And what is considered polite is different. So in some places being like, hey, you're wrong and this is why you're wrong is totally fine. And being that blunt about it is totally fine. In other places, I had I have some in-laws and they're from like the Midwest, and they'll say like if you ask somebody for something, they won't feel comfortable saying no to you and directly. So they'll have to come up with some excuse on why they can't do it. And it's like to me that's like crazy, right? I'm like, seriously, just like tell me. I'm not going to be offended. Just, tell me. On the other hand, I know other, social groups where if you ask, they'll be like, "No. I know I'm not going to do that, and I can't believe you asked me." And that they're not even offended. They're just, I mean, maybe they're a little bit offended that you asked, but they'll tell you. And it's just different. And so recognizing that you don't know the other person on the other side of the keyboard, you don't know what's going on with them, you don't know their situation or what have you. And honestly, I think this is the most number of like bad situations I've had are still come down to this. And I don't know that there's a perfect solution because I don't know that you can really know. But I think that just trying, I think people can tell at least when you are trying. I've also had situations where people were deeply, deeply upset with me and I had no idea. I've had situations where people thought I didn't like them or I was angry at them, and I thought they were great and I really liked that they were in my group, and I would when I saw them signed up, I was like, "Sweet, so and so's here." And that I've had people that I felt that way about who thought I didn't like them. And it's just a communication thing, and you just got to realize that it's unfortunate. Obviously, communication's key, but that stuff does happen. And then another thing, or towards the end here, is remembering that it's like all about having fun. Sweaty in-game players. Some of the ways we have fun, and this is with all high-level play or anything really. Some of the ways we have fun is by sprinting through the dungeon and murdering everything. Right? We sprinting through, having optimal gear setups. That's how we have fun. Whatever it is, that's the whole expectations things. But getting it like set up where people know, what the expectations are, and that we're trying to have fun kind of in the same way. But whatever it is, just remember that it's about, at the end of the day, we're playing games, right? It's about fun, and you need to kind of remember that. So we're almost to the comments, guys. Appreciate you guys dropping them. And then, probably not the last thing, but we'll say it's the last thing, is that, one of my favorite things to do in ESO is to take a group that has no business being in a veteran trial and like getting them through the content. That's like the most fun for me. And the reason it's the most fun is because I love showing people that you can do the thing that you probably think you can't do, and giving people that courage and that encouragement to attempt things that are hard and might be outside of their own experience or skill a bit. I think that could be really helpful, and it can help people learn a bit about life. And I think that there's a lot of life lessons in here, like understanding the limits of your knowledge, understanding that people are different than you in ways that you probably don't even comprehend, and then trying to understand them and try to find some middle ground. If you go through life looking for enemies, you'll probably find a lot of them. If you go through life looking for friends, I think you'll also find a lot of them there. And you might find that, this person I thought was really cool has this belief about something that I just can't abide. You might find that might happen, but I think far more often you can find some sort of middle ground a lot of the time. And I think trying to is fairly important as well. Daedric says, rating in ESO helped me a lot with confidence in communicating my ideas and getting people to coordinated on whatever goal we're working on. Plenty of tripping along the way, but lots of lessons learned. Yeah, absolutely. Wampus says, you gave me some good advice on when to use Horn versus Barrier and VCR plus as a healer. Okay. Then there's those sweaty vet trial groups with specific comms rules. Yeah, it's all over the place. Like, yeah, some of the sweaty groups, it's like if you're not the raid lead, don't talk, and finding your place. I don't know. There's probably even more than that, but those are like a handful that I find. I think also to maybe speak just a little bit more about the humility thing, and I tend to find, as someone who didn't have a whole lot to be very proud of growing up, that the people with the least amount to be proud of are usually the most proud, because I think they just want to feel good about something. They just want to feel Um, and when you have so little to be, feel good about, you might, you just, I mean, how many times can you get beat up mentally and, in life before you just like, you need a break? And so I think you'll find that a lot. But I also find that, being humble is just a better way to live life. I can't explain all the ways in a short period of time here for you to understand that. But um, I guess either take my word for it or try it out. I think that it is a better way to live life, just period. The other thing is when you think you know everything, you stop learning. When you think that you've got everything figured out, you stop learning because what else is there to learn? When you are humble and you realize that, hey, there's a lot of things that you don't know, and there's a lot of people's experiences that you don't understand and what's going on with them, and even when you think you know something really well, like you might learn that you don't know it as well as you think. And I think that it is helpful the more life experience you have with this stuff, like you kind of figure that out. So some of this is like, if you're older, it's easier to figure this out, but you don't have to be old to be to be wise. When you've had life experiences where you thought you were so sure about something and you learn that you were totally wrong about it at some later date, right? Like if you're older, you're more likely to have had those experiences. But, a bit of humility goes a long way. And again, it's hard for me to explain all the different ways why that's good, but I promise you, it'll make life better for you. Um, my two pennies, I suppose, on that. A bit of opinion there, but I guess all of this is. Nani, what do you got to add to that?
Well, I think a couple of things, a couple of real simple things. One is I think that when you find yourself in a raid and other players, you're getting frustrated. This is something I see as a raid lead quite a bit is, well, use Vass as an example. So-and-so was in my lane. And they get frustrated because this other person is interfering with them doing what they need to do. But try to always remember that everybody in the raid is there to have fun and they're all doing their best.
Yes.
So even if it's a whisper to them, say, hey, I noticed we're clashing. They may think you're in their lane. So
Yeah.
just remember that everybody is really there doing their very best.
Yeah, that's huge.
The other piece is, as you were talking early on about raid leading and your role as the raid lead, my first job as raid lead is to set the tone. If I come into the raid and I'm bummed and I'm kind of like, okay, we're here, that doesn't set a tone for success. So I feel like my job going in there is to really set the tone. I say hi to everybody as they join the voice. How's it going today? Because I want them to feel included. That's something that's important to me personally. But as we go through the raid, it's to keep that up. Even if we're dying over and over again, it's my job to keep the spirits up and talk about things to lighten the mood. Laugh at myself when I make a mistake and fall over, like you were saying,
Yeah, show people it's okay to
recognizing-
fail.
Right, it's okay to fail, and that we're not different. I may have been playing a little bit longer. I may have different experiences, but we're no different. We're all here together to meet a common goal.
Yeah.
So there's my 2 cents. My 2 pennies.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, Wampus says being humble is a virtue. Yeah, I don't know if everybody would agree with that, Wampus, but I certainly think it's a better way to live. If you want to call it a virtue, great. If you want to call it something else, sure. But that's my 2 cents at least. Well, guys, the whole point of the stream was to have a bit of a. I mean, it's in the thumbnail, right? To have a bit of a feel-good stream. I hope that we've achieved that here a bit. I hope that, I wanted to talk about ESO. I wanted to talk about some of the fake tanking and other stuff, but I wanted to keep it, in a way that, in a positive way, feel good stream. That's it. But still be able to talk about this stuff and be able to talk about, some of the, again, because there are like life lessons that you can learn from video games. I mean, that's certainly been the case for me. I've learned a lot. And, if you have kids or if you're a younger person, like I think there's, you probably learn a little bit more because sometimes after a while we kind of get we can get stagnant and stop learning along the way. So I hope we've achieved that. Hey, Terrell says I do feel better. Terrell, that's awesome. That's that's the highest praise I could ask for. Oh, okay, cool. I appreciate it, guys. You don't have to say you enjoyed it, but I appreciate the feedback. That tells me that we achieved what we set out to do. I think that now that we've done this for a bit, we should go play a game. Nani, do you got trials tonight? What are you getting into?
I do actually. I just got a message while we were chatting
Oh,
that I've got to go find a fill for some DSR hard mode. What are you doing tonight, Knight?
What time's that DSR hard mode?
7:30 your time.
7:30 my time. I will talk to a I'm loath to say yes because I don't get a ton of time with this cute girl I know.
Yeah, I think you should go spend time with that cute
Okay.
girl.
But she might have something going on, so she might be like, "It's fine, just play. I don't care." We'll see. She also drops in on the stream, so we can kind of. It's not the same as hanging out real life, but
Right.
I'm a definite maybe. I'll check in and get back with you.
All right. I was just teasing. Didn't mean to put you on the
Oh
spot.
no! Oh, you're good. I don't feel put on the spot at all. I would love to.
Okay.
What do you need? What are you looking for?
Weapon Slayer.
Oh, I've never done that.
Yeah.
Okay. Save that spot. I'll get back with you in a bit.
Okay.
Well, cool guys. Well, we're gonna jump over. We're gonna play right now, and just as an FYI, so people know. Lyriel says, "Fine by me." All right, Nani, I'm in. I'm weapon slaying. Sounds good. 7:30.
right.
I'll be there. In the Discord, we've long had some channels. Let me actually pull it up real quick just so I could show you guys. Yeah, here we go. So we've long had over here on the left. I know there's a lot here, guys. But there's other indie games here in the Discord. We're gonna be playing Biped 2, which I have had a chance to play this a little bit. I wasn't allowed to talk about it until today. It's incredibly fun. It's really fun. We also have Verballs, and if you look at other games, we've got some other games here. Lost in Prayer, Hexadome. If you're looking for indie games, I'm going to continue to have this updating. Eventually, we'll have these on the website. But yeah, Biped 2. And then, of course, for the ones that people play a lot, like we have a tag for Helldivers because we're always playing it in addition to other games. Dune Awakening, I'm waiting for it to come out one day. But we've got some stuff there. And then Path of Exile. It's been a little bit because they need to make some updates to Path of Exile before we play it a lot more. But anyways, it's all here for you. So just realize it's there, guys, and I'll keep this updated. Eventually, my hope is to have this on the website though, so you guys can kind of see, but also link the live stream so you can see what I thought about it playing live for the first time and what have you. Because I think that indie games really are the future of gaming, and if we're going to keep getting great games, we need to help by continuing to support these guys.
While you get that set up, I'm gonna say good night.
All
Goodbye,
right.
stream. Thanks, Knight.
Thanks, Donnie. Appreciate you coming.
You
Bye.
bet. Bye.
Oh, Lyriel said I interrupted a set to go to my phone to say this. Lyriel, I'm sorry we're interrupting your workout routine. Hey, what's up? Where Moogle? Guaranteed maybe, yeah. All right, guys. Well, sounds like we're gonna be doing that a little bit later. So let's go ahead and jump over and play some Biped 2. We're gonna be playing solo. I do need to get a controller out, so let me go ahead and do that. As always, it'll be in a second, guys. But on YouTube, you'll see that I'll have to end the stream, and it should kick you guys over. Should being the key there. But if not, you guys know where to come find me. I need this. Have to eject something so I can plug in this controller real quick. I played Biped 2 just last night with Lyriel, and then I played some solo. Man, it's fun. You guys probably know, I love these sorts of games, so there's a little bit of bias. I will say the 2-player, maybe a few things that need some tweaking because I thought it was a little too hard in places. Harder than the single player, which is odd. So I'm definitely be providing some feedback, and you'll actually notice as I go through the stream that I'll be doing that. So just realize that's part when I'm kind of like monologuing and saying how I'm feeling about a game, particularly the indie games. It's because some of that is I'm gonna let these guys, send them the stream and let them know my thoughts or what have you, and some of it's also for my own self, to make sure that I kind of remember or what have you. Where Moogle says banish the wait screen again incoming. Yeah, it'll banish you to a wait screen, and then it just takes me a second to get it back up. We won't do that just yet. I'll let you know right before I do that. Lyriel says this game is adorable but too hard for me. I got so frustrated. So get ready to watch a pro gamer because he was fine. For reference, Mario is a bit hard for me though. Yeah, she's talking about Mario 3. We have a RetroPie that we've played like Mario like platformers on him before, and yeah, when we played like Mario 3, it was yeah, it could get frustrating for Lyriel. I played so much of that growing up though. I also have a bit of a, it's one of the cool things that I've learned from gaming is like, I get less frustrated maybe than otherwise might. All right, cool. So it's up. Let's go ahead and start the stream here. We'll kick you guys over. I should have started with Mario 1 maybe. Lyriel, that's actually true. That probably would have been a good idea, is starting with Mario 1 instead of jumping into Mario 3 and I'm like doing the like sky levels where you can just fall off the map and die instantly. Yeah, probably not the best place for you to start. All right, guys. Everybody on Twitch, let's go ahead and do that actually first. Hey guys on Twitch, appreciate all of you guys here, and also for people for subscribing and on YouTube for becoming channel members, guys. I'm still a fair ways. I'm still pretty long ways from like this being a real job, but I really appreciate everybody who helps support the channel. You can become a channel member on YouTube for like $1, not like $1, for $1. I think it's 99 cents or something. If you want to, to help support the channel. Obviously, if you like the videos, just sharing them is probably the biggest thing because that helps the community grow, which will help, ads and everything will help the revenue grow there. So that's the biggest thing. But if you can become a channel member or subscribe on Twitch, it's a huge help, and I appreciate it. All right. All right, Biped 2 demo. I'm gonna call this Leet. I don't know. I want to say Leet gameplay, but I'm joking. So I don't know if that'll come across in a title. What should I say? Loser plays. They're gonna do that just because I think it's funny. I like being a little self-deprecating. I don't really have. Cool. Biped 2. Biped 2's got 4 followers on Twitch. Oh my gosh. Only 4. We got to get this going. Harrowing gameplay. Oh, Weremoogle. Oh man, that's great. We're doing that. Hold on. Thank you, Weremoogle. That's great. Oh my gosh. Harrowing gameplay. Love it. Terrell says, I used to get frustrated with games until I played Dark Souls. That moved the goalpost for you. I still have some. Weremoogle says I still have some skills from my Twitch days. Nice. Appreciate it, man. We're gonna have to pay Weremoogle some consulting fees here. Okay, guys. Now on YouTube, I will be kicking you guys over. We'll see you in just a second. Also know that chat will be disabled for that brief period as well, just because I have to restart the app for it to get it to work. Weremoogle says, LOL, ironically, I was a Dark Souls streamer. That's funny. Oh my gosh. All right, cool.